Right, so operational excellence. Okay, so some of this again through to the last pillar, you'll see a lot of this kind of overlaps with some of the other services that we've spoken about. Defining your infrastructure, define it so you can automate it. Releasing software, we'll be talking about infrastructure as code. You need to be embracing those same principles that go with software development. Identifying problems when they happen. Are you aware of problems as they occur? Before they occur, it's nothing worse than getting contacted by a customer to say, "Oh, your service is down," or a user saying, "I can't get access to something," and you're not aware of it. As we said before, things will fail. Have a strategy. We've covered that through on reliability, and then ongoing support. All of this is about gathering the right information to be able to build a cloud operating model on how you're going to run your services within Azure or another cloud. So embracing automation. So there's two really key bits of information on here where you can apply that. So for your infrastructure, the control plane, defining your infrastructure and kind of deploying the service in Azure, you can use things like ARM templates, Bicep, which is a new version of ARM, and things like Terraform, which are an industry standard. Once you've deployed those services, startup scripts, PowerShell, Bash, that's for actually making changes to that specific configuration. Benefits of doing this: human error, improve reliability, predictability of what's going to deploy. Less effort, you can literally click button and deploy entire environments. And it allows you to make your deployments less disruptive. Once you understand how they are deployed, you can kind of automate these and schedule them in for times when there's less disruption for the business. So as we said, really, we're looking at embracing a lot of the kind of software development good principles, so things like DevOps, and then continuous delivery and continuous integration. So for those that you don't know, so continuous delivery is a process to build, test, configure, and deploy all the way from a build all the way into a production environment for an application, or using the same principles for infrastructure as well. You have multiple testing and staging environments. You create a release pipeline, and then you automate the creation of that infrastructure and deployment of the new builds. Each successive environment, all the way from testing through to production, support progressively longer running activities integration, load, and then user acceptance testing. Continuous integration, that's what starts off that continuous delivery process. And essentially each of those successful stages of testing, build on each other until you end up with something that's ready to be deployed into production. You can automate all of this, release pipelines to allow you to fail fast. So building what it is that you need, but being able to check and make sure it's right and fit for purpose as quick as possible. And with all of that, one of the main things that you need to have in place is a rollback plan. Again, ideally this should be automated, so you can go back to a last known good version if something you release into production it isn't correct. So operational excellence, identifying problems and failure strategies. So inventory and visibility, operational compliance, protect and recover. This will form your management baseline, which is something that you need to develop. So we won't go into these in much detail. There's lots of basically services that are out there already. Everything from Azure Service Health, things like log analytics, Azure Monitor will help you with inventory and visibility. From an operational compliance point of view, things like Azure Policy, Azure Blueprints, will help you stay compliant with the core services that you're using. Desired state configuration can help you move right down towards the sort of guest OS and other aspects of the environment. And then from protect and recover, standard tooling out there, Azure Backup, Defender for Cloud we've spoken about, as well as Azure Site Recovery Services for DR. So again, some of these will seem familiar. They are because they kind of work across lots of different, multiple pillars within the environment. So understanding what healthy looks like, what does it look like when everything's going well, what does it look like when everything's going wrong? You know, these are things that you need to understand. You know, identifying those transient and non-transient errors, so you can basically exclude the noise of the ones that are transient and concentrate on the ones that you can fix, which are non-transient. Automate your incident management, so be able to send push notifications when things are, you know, things go wrong, things break. Be able to send it to the correct person that's responsible for that, or persons, help desk, or whatever it is, and look to integrate that with an incident management tool. You know, Microsoft will give you a hell of a lot of information out of things like Azure Monitor, but you know, what do you do with them, with that information that you've got? Things that you can integrate with things like ServiceNow, and get, you know, alerts across everything. It doesn't have to just be sort of emails, it can be through Teams channels, even, you know, directly to your phone on SMS and that kind of thing. In terms of failure, you know, you have to accept that failure is going to happen for the system. You know, how do you design for self-healing? We've said about it being aspirational, but certainly planning. So planning the correct architecture, active, passive, identifying roles and responsibilities of who is responsible for fixing those failures when they happen. So finally, the design principles around operational excellence. Optimize, build and release process. We've spoken about that. CI/CD pipelines, you know, embracing software engineering. Understanding your operational health, you know, being, you know, what does healthy look like? What does it look like when things are good? Understanding that can help you when things go wrong. Rehearse recovery and practice failure. You know, things will go wrong. How do we recover from those? It's much better knowing what you're doing with those, you know, running from a kind of a workbook rather than doing it for the first time live and everyone's kind of screaming at you and asking you what's going wrong. Embrace continuous operational improvement. So, you know, looking at trying to make improvements across absolutely everything. Again, that's getting information back from the infrastructure as it's running now and understanding where you can make improvements, whether that's across, you know, one or multiple of these pillars. And finally, you know, using loosely coupled architecture. That enables you to spread the load, enables teams to independently test, deploy and update their individual systems, you know, without depending on other teams to, you know, give them support, give them access to resources or approval.